Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhandatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, so we will continue from where we left. It is Uddhava was speaking to Vidura and he was telling the various aspects of Krishna's pastimes until the point of winding up of his Leela. And the last instance is that when Krishna was sitting deep in the forest on the banks of Saraswati, so Uddhava happened to meet him, and at the same time Maitreya also came there. So there was some discussions that were happening, but then till that point, Uddhava spoke, and then he was telling that he is too much afflicted by separation from Krishna, and then he wants to continue to go to the Badrik ashram to see Naranarayan Rishi, and that has been ordered by Krishna. So in that way, no, Uddhava wants to proceed, and that's the situation that's the prelude that is there till this point. Text 23 of fourth chapter of third canto. Shri Sukha Uvacha iti Uddhavad upakarnya suhridam duksaham vadam jnanena shamayat kshatta shokam utpatitam buddha. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, after hearing from Uddhava all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidura pacified his overwhelming bereavement by dint of his transcendental knowledge. Purport. Vidura was informed that the result of the battle of Kurukshetra was the annihilation of his friends and relatives, as well as destruction of the Yadu dynasty, and also the passing away of the Lord. All these hurled him into bereavement for the time being, but because he was highly advanced in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to pacify himself by enlightenment. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, due to our long association with bodily relationships, bereavement on account of annihilation of friends and relatives is not at all astonishing, but one has to learn the art of subduing such bereavement with higher transcendental knowledge. So this we see even sometimes great devotees also may be swayed into the no little bit of momentarily the material miseries no may affect them, just like when we do devotional service momentarily we feel devoted to the Lord, but then again we fall back into the material consciousness. So in the same way, for them the great devotees, they are always Krishna conscious, and momentarily they may get into some material pains and things like that, but then within no time that will just go off, right? So okay, that is due to that higher transcendental knowledge that they have got. The talks between Uddhava and Vidura on topic of Krishna began at sunset, and Vidura was now further advanced um, in knowledge due to his association with Uddhava. Okay, text 24. Satam Mahabhagavatam Vrajantam Kura Varshabha Vishrambhad Adya Dattedam Mukyam Krishna Parigrahe. While Uddhava, the chief and most confidential amongst the devotees of the Lord, was going away, Vidura in affection and confidence questioned him. Purport. Vidura was much older than Uddhava. Yeah, so this is like Uddhava was on almost on the equal level of Krishna's age. Krishna, Arjuna, and all of them are kind of equals. So we can just see the age of Uddhava, and then Vidura is no is the uncle. No kind of it's like no they one generation before. Like it's on the category of father, so that is the age difference that is there. So they're kind of one generation before. So Vidura was much older than Uddhava. By family relationship, Uddhava was a contemporary brother of Krishna's, while Vidura was as elderly as Krishna's father Vasudev. But although junior by age, Uddhava was much advanced in devotional service of the Lord, and therefore he is described herein as the chief amongst the devotees of the Lord. Vidura was confident about this, and thus he addressed Uddhava in that higher category. That is a way of courteous dealings between two devotees. Right? So we should see the advancement of the devotee, and appropriately we should offer respect. Text 25. Vidura uvacha jnanam param svatma raha prakasham yad aha yogeshvara ishvaraste vaktum bhavan no rati yaddi vishnor mrityah svabhrityartha kritascharanti. Vidura said, "O Uddhava, because the servant of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself." So now Vidura, like Uddhava wants to leave and he wants to go, but then Vidura is asking like, no, you just told that Lord told you, Lord actually enlightened you with the transcendental knowledge. And so Vidura and Maitreya and no, sorry, like Uddhava and Maitreya both were present at that time. So Uddhava told till that much, and then he didn't tell further. No, after that he is winding up, and then he is just leaving. And Vidura is asking, like, please tell me what Lord has personally told you. I want to hear. And here he is using nice words actually. No, because the servants of Vishnu, no, they wander in the interest of serving others. So the Lord's devotees, they always are interested in serving others. Okay, and how are they going to serve? It is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge, with which you have been enlightened by the Lord Himself, right? So even we have quite often we have taken reference of this shloka from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Esham, Eva anukampartam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. So Lord says that when I become very, very compassionate upon somebody, I give them the knowledge about myself, and then no knowledge of jnana deepena bhashvata. So I light the lamp of knowledge in their heart, right? So in that way, like here we see that the devotees of the Lord, they constantly engage in distributing this knowledge, and by distributing this knowledge they can actually make people much, much more stronger. So we can do some facilities, we can actually try to give some other kind of charities also, but then Vidyadan, no, Vidyadan means not some material education, this one. So we have to give them transcendental knowledge. And if people are equipped with transcendental knowledge, they will become such strong personalities, both internally and externally. So they will not have any problems, right? So, and they will also know their life's goal. So in that way, this is considered to be the greatest charity. And here Vidura is telling, "Oh Uddhava, like, no, you are greatest of servants of Lord, and no, the devotees of the Lord are very compassionate upon others. So they try to tell the knowledge, that knowledge about the Lord, and you have just been enlightened by the Lord Himself, and you should kindly share that whatever the Lord has told you, please kindly share that with me." Right? So we see that if anyone has got an audience of very, very high personality or something like that, and if he has got a meeting, so then immediately after he comes out, all the reporters will be there. What was what was the discussion, what happened there, and things like that. So it's something of that sort. Like Vidura is very, very eager that what happened? No, what did the Lord tell you? So, and things like that. Okay, let's see the purport. The servants of the Lord are actually the servants of society. They have no interest in human society other than to enlighten in transcendental knowledge. They are interested in imparting knowledge of the relationship of living beings with the Supreme Lord, the activities in that transcendental relationship, an ultimate goal of life. Right? So this is Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. So, like the scriptural teachings can be divided into these three categories. Sambandha means what is our relationship with the Lord. Abhidaya means what is the process of attaining the Lord. And Prayojana means what is the ultimate goal, of ultimate goal, that is the Supreme Lord Himself, Ashraya. So, in that way, these things are being the devotees of the Lord, they are engaged in disseminating this kind of knowledge to people in general, right? So that is the real knowledge. Let's continue the purport. That is the real knowledge which can help which can help society achieve the real aim of human welfare. Knowledge in the matter of bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing, transformed into various branches of advancement of knowledge, is all temporary. So, just like the spiritual knowledge we saw, it is divided into three categories, that is Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. So, Sambandha is like what is my relationship with the Lord, Abhidaya is how to attain the Lord, and Prayojana is the goal. No, that is the Lord Himself. So, these things are the subject matter of spiritual teachings. And what is the subject matter of material knowledge? Material knowledge subject matter is eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. No, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maituna. So these are the divisions of material knowledge. So somebody may say like, oh, we have very amazing knowledge of what is that, chemistry or astrology or like many different branches of knowledge are there. So how can we say everything is categorized into these four? Yeah, everything finally is meant for these four only. And if somebody say like, okay, I'll give you knowledge, but with that you will not be able to earn any money, and you will not be able to get good facilities of your living and things like that. And also they'll say, oh no, such kind of knowledge is not needed for me. So it's ultimately everything, all material knowledge boils down to these four things: Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, and Maituna. So these four things, right? So these are all temporary knowledge, right? A living being is not material body, but an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And thus, revival of his self knowledge is essential. Without this knowledge, the human life is baffled. The servants of the Lord, Vishnu, are entrusted with this responsible work, and so they wander over the earth and to all other planets in the universe. Thus, the knowledge which was received by Uddhava directly from the Lord deserves to be distributed in human society, especially to persons like Vidura who are highly advanced in devotional service of the Lord. Right. So this is the message of Lord must be distributed. So that is the purpose for which the Lord comes, and He orchestrates all these things, and then He delivers the knowledge, and that is meant to be understood and distributed, for people in general. Okay, real transcendental knowledge descends in disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhava, from Uddhava to Vidura, and so on. Such supreme transcendental knowledge is not possible to achieve by the process of imperfect speculation as performed by so called learned mundane wranglers. So, all the knowledge that we have got is, we have studied all various researchers and all various kind of findings. It is all done by some scientists, in their laboratories or in their experiments, in their observations and things like that. So we are all imperfect. Our senses are imperfect. So what kind of perfect knowledge can come out, from imperfect senses? So that's what is mentioned here. So the real transcendental knowledge comes in disciplic succession as revealed by the Lord. Now we try to find out; it is very very difficult. Now we cannot find out anything properly. Even the matter we cannot understand properly. What to speak of spiritual things? It is not at all possible. Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhava that confidential knowledge known as Paramam Sthitim, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. Although Vidura was older than Uddhava, he was anxious to become a servant of Uddhava in the transcendental relationship. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Chaitanya also. Lord Chaitanya advises that one receive transcendental knowledge from anyone, whether a Brahmana or a Shudra or a householder or a sannyasi, provided that person is factually conversant with the science of Krishna. Jai Krishna Tattva Vitha Se Guru Hai. Right? So it is mentioned one who has understood the science of Krishna, he can become a guru. No, like it doesn't matter from which background he comes from. Right? A person who knows the science of Krishna is factually a bona fide spiritual master. Okay, so now Vidura is presenting his appeal. No, and now let's see what Uddhava is speaking. Uddhava uvacha nanute tattva samradhya rishi kausha rabhontike sakshat bhagavatadishto matyalokam jihasata. Sri Uddhava said, "You may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reputation of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world." So now Uddhava is pointing his fingers to Maitreya. So, like, it is not that I was the only one who received the knowledge. Even Maitreya was there in the scene. So you better go to him and then you ask from him. So he will be able to tell you. Okay, purport. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vatikrama, or impatiently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vatikrama, because by so doing, one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive the transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as a spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. No, this is called Maryada Vatikrama. So it is improper respect that has been offered. So if there is a senior personality is there, if there is somebody who is better knowledgeable person is there, so then if even a question is posed to oneself, so he should refer to the senior person. So we can refer to, like, we will hear from the senior person, and in case if that senior person says no, no, you continue, so then we can. But otherwise, it is a very important respect that needs to be offered to a senior, when these kind of transactions happens, right? So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person, but he was well versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. So now here that age consideration is taken into account. So now, just before this, we saw that anyone can become a spiritual master irrespective of the age. And here, the very next sloka, it is spoken about like Uddhava was feeling like he is elderly. How can I become his? How can I advise him? No, on whatever I've heard. So these two things appear to be contradictory. So, but it is actually very important to note that Vidura, he did not make any distinction based on age, because he is approaching to get the knowledge. He is not judging another person based on age. He is judging the other person based on only the spiritual advancement. But the person who is giving the knowledge, no, he is considering, no, no, I am like very younger in age.
how can I instruct a person who is elder in age? So I should not do that. So there is a other elderly person is there, so he should, it should be referred to him. So this is a very important thing. When it comes to other people, we see any parameter that is fitting. No, like age is there, spiritual advancement is there. No, all the different categories are there. So like Uddhava is trying to see in which way I am lowest, and no, he's actually calculating in which way I am lowest. So that is how one should feel for oneself, and for others we should have a different parameter. No, for others, in which way he is highest. No, if Vidura would have told that, oh, like, no, you are a younger person, what will I learn from you? So then it's not a proper attitude. And if Uddhava would have told that, no, anyway, I am most advanced in knowledge, so I should instruct you, no, than Maitreya. So then that also would have been not a very good this one Vaishnava etiquette. So in the material world, we see the exactly opposite thing. No, everybody sees if there is any small quality in them is there, they will blow it up and say, you see, like, no, I have this quality. No, I think you should recognize me for this quality, right? So, and then for others, even if they have a lot of qualities, no, we will try to find some fault. Okay, because you have other things, but then you have this fault. So, no, you're not that great. So we will have that kind of a measuring yardstick. So, but in the spiritual consciousness, a devotee is always eager to find fault in oneself and find good in others. No, that's the this one. That's the thing that we can actually take from this. This is not a contradicting thing. No, from the previous sloka and this sloka. In the previous sloka, it is from the viewpoint of Vidura, and he was ready to take instruction even from a younger person. And here in this sloka, it is from the viewpoint of Uddhava, and Uddhava was considering that I am younger in age and I should not dare instruct, an elderly person. So that's the mood, so that we can actually see from this. So always a devotee is trying to put himself down and put others, on a higher platform. So that is what we can actually understand from this. Okay, let's continue the purport. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impatience of Maryada Vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own personal gain and fame. Impatience on the part of pseudo spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. Okay. Text 27. Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Saha Vidurena Vishwamurter Gunakathaya Sudaya Plavitoru Thapa Shanam Iva Puline Yamas Vasustham Samushsita Anupa Gavir Nisham Tatoghat. Shukadev Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc., on the bank of Yamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with great affliction. He passed the night as if it were a moment, and thereafter he went away. Okay, purport. The word used here for Krishna is Vishwamurti. Both Uddhava and Vidura were in great affliction because of Lord Krishna's departure. And the more they discussed the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, the more the picture of the Lord became visible to them everywhere. So that's this one. Vishwamurti means like everywhere they see, they could able to see only Krishna. No, they were not able to see anything else because they were so intimately connected to Krishna. And they are discussing now about the name, fame, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. So now we are also trying to discuss the subject matter of the Supreme Lord. And more we become purified, more we will feel so much of attraction towards the Supreme Lord, right? Okay, such visualization of transcendental form of the Lord is neither false nor imaginary, but is factual absolute truth. When the Lord is perceived as Vishwamurti, it is not that he loses his personality or transcendental eternal form, but he becomes visible in the same form everywhere. the pure devotee of the Lord, he's seeing the Lord everywhere. Text 28, Raja Uvacha Nidanam Upagateshu Vrishni Bhojeshwa Adhirata Yat Yutapa Yuta Peshu Mukyah Satu Katam Avashishta Uddhavo Yad Darir Api Tatyaj Akritim Taryadishaha. The king inquired, at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, that is Sri Krishna, after the disappearance of the members of Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava alone remain? Purport. So here Parikshit Maharaj is asking that, to Shukadeva Goswami, that here it seems like only Uddhava is remaining, and who are other peoples, who were remaining after the annihilation of Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties. Purport. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, um, Nidanam means transcendental abode of the Lord. Ni means the highest, and Dhanam means opulence. And because the abode of the Lord is the highest manifestation of transcendental opulence, his abode can therefore be called Nidanam. Apart from the grammatical elucidation, the real purpose of the word Nidanam is to indicate that all the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties were direct associates of the Lord, and after the end of his pastimes, all the associates were dispatched to their respective positions in the transcendental abode. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elucidates the meaning of akritim as pastimes. A means complete and kritim means transcendental pastimes. Since the Lord is identical with his transcendental body, there is no question of his changing or quitting his body. To act in accordance with the rules and customs of the material world, the Lord seems to take his body or leave his body, but the pure devotees of Lord know very well the actual fact. So Prabhupada often mentions our forgetfulness to, he often compares our forgetfulness to the changing of body. The Lord remembers everything. So the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita that many millions of years before, I imparted the same knowledge. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. Manu, like I instructed this very same knowledge to Manu, no, and sorry, Vivaswan, the sun god, many millions of years before. And Arjuna asked, like, how are you able to remember all these things? And I know that you were born along with me and things like that. And how is it that I can understand that you have instructed this knowledge? Then Krishna says that no, both of us have gone through many lives, but then you have always been my associate, but then you forget everything, I don't forget. So and there Prabhupada says it's because the Lord doesn't change his body, so he doesn't forget anything, and we change our body, so we forget. So change of body is connected to the remembrance, no, aspect of this one. So here devotees of the Lord, they very well know it's not that the Lord is taking some body when he is appearing in this world, and then when he is leaving this world, no, he quits the body just like anyone else. So that is a mundane conception. So pure devotees of the Lord, they know very well that the Lord's body and the Lord himself is non-different. So he comes with his own self-same body, and he goes back also in his own self-same body. Okay, it is necessary, therefore, for the serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam to follow the note and comments of great acharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. To others, who are not devotees of the Lord, the comments and explanation of such acharyas may appear to be grammatical jugglery, but to the students who are in line of the disciplic succession, the explanations of the great acharyas are quite fit. No, we can see the Lord only through the eyes of the acharyas. No, it is not possible for us to see directly. No, we cannot see the Lord. We don't have that much of advancement to understand the Lord and see the Lord. And if we want to understand the Lord, we have to follow the great personalities, right? So that is the way we can actually see the Lord. And here we see that, very mercifully, these great personalities like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, So they have given amazing commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, so which can be studied, right? Okay. So the word Upagateshu is also significant. All the members of Vrishni and Bhoja directly reach the abode of the Lord. Other devotees do not reach the abode of the Lord directly. But the pure associates of the Lord have no attraction for the opulence of any planets of the material world. Sometimes, due to inquisitiveness, devotees who are to be promoted to the abode of the Lord have some attraction for the opulence of the higher material planets above the earth, and thus they desire to see them while going up to the perfection. But the Vrishnis and Bhojas were directly dispatched because they had no attraction for material planets. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also suggests that according to Amar Kosha dictionary, so Amar Kosha is the standard dictionary of Sanskrit. So Akriti also means signal. Lord Krishna ordered Uddhava by signal to go to Badrik ashram after his departure, and Uddhava, as a pure devotee of Lord, carried out the order more faithfully than going back to Godhead or the abode of the Lord. That was the cause of his remaining alone even after the departure of the Lord from the face of the earth. So why is Uddhava alone? No, because the Lord instructed him to be there. So otherwise, a devotee, no, he generally, no, in this kind of very very eh, like intimate relationship which Uddhava had with Krishna. So he would have also left his body, but then the Lord instructed him, no, you have some business here, so you should stay back, and then you have to do certain things. So Uddhava agreed, and then he stayed back. Okay, text 29. Sri Sukha Uvacha Brahma Sapa Padeshena Kalena Moga Vanchitaha Samhritya Swakulam Spitham Takshak Takshakyan Deham Achintayat. Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows." So, so this we see that the Yadu dynasty was destroyed because of the curse of the Brahmanas, right? So you all may remember that Samba was dressed up like a pregnant woman, and then he was taken in front of the sages, and then they asked the sages what kind of a child will be born of this pregnancy, and the sages could able to see that these boys are playing pranks, and they cursed, saying that whatever may be born of from this pregnancy, that will be the cause of destruction of Yadu dynasty. So that came out to be a lump of iron, and that was powdered and thrown in the in the river or something like that, and then finally in the Prabhasa Kshetra, all those iron filings were sedimented, and then or settled, we can say, in the shores, and some kind of a plant that grew there, so that also was mixed with this iron, this one. So in that way, using those plants, so all the Yaduvamshis, they fought with each other, and then they killed each other. So now here, Shukadeva Goswami is very clearly replying to Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry that this is very clear. It's Lord's desire, to wind up the whole pastimes. That is all. That is why all these things has happened. It is not. It is not that the Brahmana's curse was so important in this scenario, because Brahmana's curse happened because it was the Lord's will. Okay, purport. In this verse, the word Tyakshayan is very significant in relation to Lord Sri Krishna's leaving his body. Since he is the eternal form of existence, knowledge, and bliss, his body and his self are identical. Therefore, how is it possible that he would leave his body and then disappear from the vision of the world? There is a great controversy amongst the non devotees or Mayavadis about the mysterious disappearance of the Lord, and the doubts of those men with a poor fund of knowledge have been very elaborately cleared by Srila Jiva Goswami in Krishna Sandarbha. According to Brahma Samhita, the Lord has many forms. It is stated therein that the Lord has innumerable forms, and when he appears within the vision of the living entity, as Lord Krishna actually appeared, all such forms amalgamated with him. Besides all these infallible forms, he has his universal form, as mentioned, as manifested before Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here in this verse, the word spitam is also used, which indicates that he left his gigantic universal form called the Virata Rupa, not his primeval eternal form, because there is hardly any possibility of his changing his Sachidananda, his form of Sachidananda. So this is like a very important point to note. So the such slokas where the Lord has left the body and went. No, it is very very bewildering. No, it actually like hits the root of our philosophy, right? So root of our philosophy is that no, the Lord and His body is not different. So the Lord is what is that, Advayam? No, he's one without a second. And how can he have a body and he is different from the body? That is not possible. So, but then here it is mentioned, when the Lord, the Supreme Lord Himself appears, Krishna Himself appears, all the various incarnations of the Lord also appears with Him. And then, no, there is another form, that is Virata Rupa, which is shown to Arjuna, and in other cases also Lord Krishna showed. So this Virata Rupa is the universal form. So that is also a form of Krishna. So Krishna left all these things. No, Krishna leaving this world and going is a kind of, you can say that no, he left his body and going. So that is the kind of this one. It is not that he left the body, the 200 form of Shama Sundar. No, he didn't leave that body. No, that is not the this one understanding that that a person should take. No, from here. Okay, this simple understanding is at once realized by the devotee of the Lord, but those who are non devotees, who perform hardly any devotional service to the Lord, either do not understand the simple fact or purposely raise a controversy to defeat the eternity of the transcendental body of the Lord. This is due to the defect called the cheating propensity of imperfect living entities. Right? So that's how this is a very very simple thing to understand for a devotee. No, it is like um, somebody may say that like it's something very obvious, like to understand that um, I'm not getting any relevant example. So, but here we see that it's something very obvious. When Krishna left his body and went, means it is not possible to that he left the spiritual body. That he had the Shama Sundara form. So that is definitely a ridiculous thing. So, but such slokas are taken by the Mayavadis and the impersonalists and the atheists, and then they say, no, what is the kind of Lord? No, he's not Lord. He's just an ordinary person. He also had to leave his body and go, right? So that's a very ridiculous thing, right? So our acharyas actually explain in great detail about that aspect. Okay. By practical experience also, it is seen up to the present day that the Lord's transcendental form is worshipped by devotees in different temples, and all devotees of the Lord factually realize the form of the deity in the temple is non-different from the form of the Lord. This inconceivable performance of internal potency of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. In the Padma Puran, it is said, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyahi. The name and form of the Lord cannot be perceived by material senses. But when he appears within the vision of mundane people, he assumes the form of Virata Rupa. This is an additional material exhibition of form and is supported by the logic of subject and its adjectives. In the grammar, when an adjective is taken away from the subject e, the subject it modifies. It doesn't suit here. Okay, the subject is no modifies Um, Okay, the subject it modifies does not change. Okay, so adjective generally we see that beautiful, very beautiful. No, very is kind of a that is amazingly beautiful. No, that's kind of an adjective. So if the adjective is taken away, the subject doesn't change. No, or beautiful and this what is it? It just enhances the adjective. Just enhances the subject, right? So and here we see that if the adjective is taken out, the subject is still not changed. No, the subject is still the same. Similarly, when the Lord quits his virata rupa, his eternal form does not change, although there is no material difference between himself and any one of his innumerable forms. In the fifth canto, it will be seen how the Lord is worshipped in different planets in his various forms, even now, and how he is worshipped in different temples of the earth also. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have very elaborately explained this incident of Lord's disappearance in their commentaries, quoting various authentic versions of Vedic literatures. So that's why this is very, very bewildering pastime where the Supreme Lord quits this world, no, leaves this world. It appears to be like, no, he gives sufficient evidences to the ordinary people to think that he is an ordinary person. And for devotees, like, no, it is quite obvious that, Krishna, no, did not leave a body like all of us leave, when we quit our body, right? Okay, we purposely do not include them all here to avoid an increase in the volume of this book. The entire matter is explained in Bhagavad Gita as quoted above. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. He always keeps himself out of the vision of non devotees who are devoid of love and devotion, and thus he puts them still further away from the Lord. The Lord appeared on the invitation of Brahma, who prayed before the Kshirodakshai Vishnu, and therefore, when the Lord appeared, all the forms of Vishnu amalgamated with him, and when the mission was fulfilled, all of them disintegrated from him in the usual course. So when the Lord appeared with all the different incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha. Everyone appeared along with Krishna because Krishna is the boss. No Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Bhritya. So Krishna is the boss. So when he appears, like everyone comes with him, and then when he leaves, so in like all these various incarnations, also they depart to their own Vaikuntha planets. Okay, text 30. Asmal lokad uparate mai jnanam madashrayam arhatyuddhava evad evadha samprathi atma vatham varaha. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Purport. So this is Shukadeva Goswami is telling that the mood of the Lord, that the Lord was entrusting the transcendental knowledge to Uddhava, and then he is leaving. Purport. Jnanam Mad Ashrayam is significant in this verse. Transcendental knowledge has three departmental divisions, namely knowledge of impersonal Brahman, knowledge of all-pervading Supersoul, and knowledge of personality of Godhead. Out of the three, transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead, um, out of the three, transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead has special significance and is known as Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So here the very same thing is mentioned as Jnana Mad Ashrayam. So that knowledge which is going to like help people to take the Mad Ashrayam means my shelter. So that knowledge which is going to help people to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, that is very significant. So there are three kinds of transcendental knowledge. So one is Brahma Jnana, another is Paramatma Jnana, and third is Bhagavan, no Jnana. So like the knowledge about the Bhagavan, so that is very important. Here also that same thing is mentioned, Jnanam Mad Ashrayam. And here Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana. So this is again from the first canto, second chapter, I think sloka 21 or 22 it should be. So Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana Mukta Sanga Sajayate. So it comes over there. So
So that is specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So this specific knowledge is realized by pure devotional service and no other means. Bhagavad Gita 18:55 confirms this. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yas chasmi tattvataha. Only persons engaged in devotional service can factually know the transcendental position of the Lord. Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of Lord from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Badrikashram, where the Lord is personally represented by the Naranarayana deity. One who is transcendently advanced can get direct inspiration from the temple deity, and thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord in order to make tangible advancement in transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. So even the deities in the temple can actually reciprocate, can actually enlighten someone, right? So here Uddhava is actually going to the Badrikashram where Naranarayana deity is present. Okay, text 31. Nodvo Nodhavo va api mam no yad gunair nadita prabhu ato mad vayunam lokam grahyan iha tishtatu. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Purport: the specific qualification for becoming the representative of the Lord is to be unaffected by the modes of material nature. The highest qualification of a person in the material world is to be a Brahmana. But since a Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, to be a Brahmana is not sufficient for becoming a representative of the Lord. One has to transcend the mode of goodness also and be situated in unalloyed goodness, unaffected by any of the qualities of material nature. This stage of transcendental qualification is called Shuddha Sattva or Vasudeva or Vishuddha Sattva, it is called. So, and in this stage, the signs of God can be realized. No, as the Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature, so a pure devotee of the Lord is also not affected by the modes of nature. So this goes to say, if a person is affected by the modes of nature, then he cannot disseminate transcendental knowledge, right? So if we want to distribute transcendental knowledge, we should be beyond the modes of material nature. So if we are not beyond the modes of material nature, simply we should try to repeat whatever is there, directly from the scriptures. So our own conclusions doesn't have any value or meaning because we are within the modes of material nature and our conclusions are useless. We should just simply follow the conclusions of the Supreme Lord or the liberated acharyas. So that is the way of following. No, we cannot come up with our own conclusions. Okay, a person who is able to attain this transcendental qualification is called Jivan Mukta or liberated, even though he is apparently in material conditions. This liberation is achieved by one who constantly engages in transcendental service, transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 to 187, it is stated, Iha yasya harer dasya dasye karmana manasagira nikilashva api avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. So this Jivan Mukta means what? No, the translation of this Prabhupada has just explained in the purport itself. No, he's telling that even though he is apparently in material conditions, so a person may be living in the material body, but then the liberation is achieved, Jivan Mukta. No, even though he is Jivan, even though he is living, still he is Mukta. No, how he is Jivan Mukta? Because Karmana Manasa Gira, no, Nikilashva Api Avastasu. No, he is always engaged in the service of the Lord. So because he is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord, so he becomes a Jivan Mukta. He becomes liberated even though he is living in this world. Anyone who by his actions, mind and words, karmana, manasa, gira, so lives only for the transcendental loving service of the Lord,
is certainly a liberated soul, even though he may appear to be in a condition of material existence. So this is this one. If we engage ourselves completely in Krishna's service, then we are considered to be liberated, even though we are living. No, it's just a matter of procedure that death has to come, and then we'll have to go back to the spiritual world. But then, even while living, it is already known that he is liberated. So that's the way it is. And Uddhava was in such a transcendental position, and thus he was selected to be the factual representative of the Lord in his bodily absence from the vision of the world. Such a devotee of the Lord is never affected by material strength, intelligence, or even renunciation. Such a devotee of Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswami. Only such Goswamis can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental loving relationships. Okay, let's see another sloka. Evam Triloka Guruna Sandishtha Shabdayon Nina Badra Bad Badarsh Badaryashramam Ashadhya Harim Ije Samadhina. Shukadev Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrikashrama and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. Purport: Lord Sri Krishna is factually the spiritual master of three worlds and he is original source of all Vedic knowledge. It is very difficult, however, to understand the personal feature of the absolute truth, even from the Vedas. Now, there is a nice chapter in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, the prayers by the personified Vedas. And this section comes in with a question, when a question is raised, that how can the Vedic literatures, which are mere sound vibrations, can describe that supreme Lord, who is beyond all the words, like that's a very difficult thing. Now, how can you describe the Lord and fit him within a limited set of words? Now, how can the unlimited be fit within a limited set of words and things like that? So, and there this wonderful section comes, and there it is mentioned. This very same conclusion is given. It is very difficult. No, it is very difficult, however, to understand the personal feature of the absolute truth, even from the Vedas. Right. So it is not possible for the Vedas to also fully capture the Lord. It is not at all possible. So we have always been discussing this example of a thirsty man and a reservoir of water. So Vedas also can describe the Lord to some extent. That's all, right? So it cannot describe the Lord completely, and we don't need a complete description. Also, the Vedas in itself is like an ocean. So which is in comparison to the Lord, the Vedas may be like a drop, but then for us, Vedas is like an ocean. No, we need only few drops. No, for us to what is that, quench our thirst. So whatever we need, even much more than that is there. So but Vedas cannot possibly completely explain the Supreme Lord. That's not possible, right? So his personal instructions are needed in order to understand the personality of Godhead as supreme absolute truth. So it is very, very important. Like Lord's personal instructions are needed. So now where is the Lord? No, Lord is not there personally. So then how can I get personal instructions of the Lord? So we have to get personal instructions of the Lord through disciplic succession. That is how we get personal instructions, right? So Bhagavad Gita is the evidence of such transcendental knowledge in gist. One cannot know the Supreme Lord unless one is graced by the Lord himself. Very, very essential point. We cannot chant properly without the grace of the Lord. We cannot understand Bhagavad Gita without the grace of the Lord. So we cannot do anything spiritual without the grace of the Lord. And grace of the Lord means grace of the spiritual master. And for us, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned, you please chant 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, 4 regulative principles, and try to do devotional service in various ways, like Prabhupada has explained. So if we do that, we will get the grace of Srila Prabhupada, and we will be able to understand, the transcendental knowledge. Otherwise, by our own becoming a bookworm, we will only be a worm. No, we will not be able to understand the transcendental science behind it. Or we may just scratch a little bit and then we may be satisfied. Okay, fine. No, I also did something with Bhagavad Gita. So, but or Bhagavatam. So, but it is not possible for us to get to the depths of the knowledge. It is possible to understand the Lord only by the grace of the Lord. It is possible to chant the names of the Lord properly with absorption only by the grace of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible. So we should always be begging for the grace of the Lord. No, my Lord, please be very, no, please be pleased upon me that, no, please allow me to understand this great scripture. No, please allow me to understand no, transcendental mystery of the holy name and how to chant the names of the Lord very nicely. We should always be begging for the mercy of the Lord, right? So that is how we can actually understand, know things clearly. Otherwise, our own endeavors doesn't have much value. Okay, Lord Krishna exhibited this specific mercy towards Arjuna and Uddhava while he was in the material world. Undoubtedly, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to encourage Arjuna to fight, and yet to complete the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructed Uddhava. So this whole instruction of Lord to Uddhava is there as Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. And no, recently His Grace Burijan Prabhu had come in January. Burijan Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he's been an amazing teacher and a very, very realized soul. And he has written like commentary or summary study on the this one on this 11th canto, especially covering all the Uddhav Gita topics and all. So there, no, it is mentioned as the backward glance. No, the book name is Backward Glance. Just that one 11th canto, he has presented an elaborate study. And one of senior devotees, who was reading that book, he was telling, "Oh, this backward glance is a subject matter for many, many seminars. So much of wealth of knowledge is there in that book." So, like many devotees purchased that book also, like when Prabhuji was there. So in that way, like we can see that this is an amazing this one. So this Uddhava Gita is a continuation to the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna spoke to Arjuna. So that Uddhava Gita is recorded in the 11th canto. So here it is not going to come, it will come in the 11th canto hereafter. Okay, so the Lord wanted Uddhava to fulfill his mission and disseminate knowledge which he had not spoken even in Bhagavad Gita. Persons who are attached to the words of the Vedas may also know from this verse that the Lord is the source of all Vedic knowledge. One who is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by going through the page of Vedas may take shelter of one of the Lord's devotees, such as Uddhava, um, in order to advance in further knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahma Samhita says that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedas. Vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto. Right? So, but he is easily understood from the pure devotees like Uddhava. Taking mercy on the great sages who lived at Badrikashram, the Lord authorized Uddhava to speak on his behalf. Unless one has such authorization, one cannot understand or preach the devotional service of the Lord. While present on this earth, the Lord executed many uncommon activities, even traveling in space, bring down the Parijata from the heaven, and recovering the son of his teacher, Sandipani Muni, from the regions of death. Uddhava was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, and all the sages were anxious to know of them, just as we are anxious to know about the planet in space. Uddhava was particularly deputed to carry a message to Badrik Ashram, not only to the sages of that place of pilgrimage, but also to the Naranarayana deities. Such a message must have been more confidential than the knowledge described in the pages of the Vedas. The Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the message dispatched through Uddhava to Naranarayana and other sages were also part of Vedic knowledge, but they were more confidential and could not be sent or understood only through such sorry, but they were more confidential and could be sent or understood only through such a pure devotee as Uddhava. Since such confidential knowledge was known only to Lord and Uddhava, it is said that Uddhava was as good as the Lord himself. Every living entity can, like Uddhava, also become a confidential messenger on the same level as the Lord, provided he becomes confidential himself by dint of loving devotional service. Such confidential knowledge is entrusted, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, only to pure devotees like Uddhava and Arjuna, and not and one has to learn the mystery through them and not otherwise. One cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam without the help of such a confidential devotee of the Lord. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that confidential message must have uh, concerned the mystery of his departure and the annihilation of his dynasty after the end of his disappearance in the mundane world for 100 years. um, Everyone must have been very anxious to know about the mystery of the annihilation of Edu dynasty, and that message must have been explained by the Lord to Uddhava and dispatched to Badrikashram for the information of Naranarayana and other pure devotees of the Lord. Right. So one important point here is that we cannot just meddle around with the transcendental subjects. We have to learn from a pure devotee, or we have to learn from a representative of the Lord in parampara. Right. So thank you all very much for joining. We just overshot a time a little bit, but then we covered till this point, and we have only 2 3 more slokas in this chapter, and after that we will get into a new chapter. Okay. Okay. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।